Well, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee. My name is Councillor Gary Thompson and I am the chair of this committee. The Local Government Act 2020 enables council to hold virtual meetings where councillors can participate by remote means of electronic communication. The Urban Planning Delegated Committee meeting is being live streamed on the council website to enable public viewing of the proceedings, including councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and will be made available on the council website as soon as practically possible after the council meeting. Should technical problems be encountered by the committee, then the meeting will be adjourned until it's resolved. However, council cannot be responsible for any technical difficulties that may be experienced by a member of the community in participating remotely during this meeting. Once the meeting commences, only limited assistance can be provided. I acknowledge that all councillors are here on the screen for tonight's meeting, absent of one. There will be also a number of other officers in attendance tonight who will be introduced when presenting their council reports. The purpose of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee is to deal with issues under the Planning and Environment Act and the Building Act. The committee has delegated authority to make decisions on behalf of council. Councillors are familiar with the reports, which include a summary of all objections received. Tonight we will be facilitating public submissions by electronic means of communication to hear from members of the community or applicants. The chair will call upon you individually to make your submission and you'll present to the gallery and the council. When making your submission, please present your viewpoints clearly and concisely on why you either support or oppose the planning application. Please do not repeat what earlier speakers have said and keep your submissions focused on relevant issues and points not previously raised. Importantly, focus on your concerns rather than matters of history or details in the officer's report. If you are opposed to the planning application, please tell the committee why and suggest an alternative approach which would satisfy your concerns. There is a strict time limit of 3 minutes for each submitter. Whilst as the chairperson I reserve the right to vary that time, I seldom do. So at the 2.5 minute mark, you will be given a warning to say that you've got 30 seconds remaining to conclude your presentation. We'll move on to the order of business this evening. Ms. Tyler, are there any apologies this evening?
Through you, Mr. Chair, due to illness, Councillor Franco is an apology this evening.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 1, adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee held on the 6th of December and also the 13th of December 2021. Councillors, I'm in search of a motion to move and adopt and confirm the minutes of the meetings held on both of those dates. Moved by Councillor Sinfield and seconded by Councillor Hollingsworth. Is there any discussion on that item? There appears to be none. I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 2, declaration of conflict of interest of any council or council officer. Are there any conflicts of interest from any councillors? There is none on the screen. Councillors, I will be declaring a conflict of interest in item 3.1, the Ashburton Heritage Gap Study consideration of the panel report. I'm a director of a company where my company is an architect to St Michael's Catholic Primary School. The item under consideration relates to the application of a heritage overlay over a portion of the school site considered through my architectural master plan to be demolished. Both the school and my company have an interest in the outcome of this. I'll be declaring my conflict of interest under section 128 of the Local Government Act as a material conflict. So we'll move on to the next item, which I believe is that report. So I believe there is an election of a temporary chairperson.
Councillors, I'm in search of nominations for the position of temporary chairperson. Mayor Addis?
Yes, I'll move that Councillor Parr take that role.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Stavro. Councillor Park, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
There being no further nominations, I declare Councillor Park elected as temporary chairperson of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee for this evening.
I'll take my leave, Governance. Thank you.
Okay, it appears that Councillor Thompson's now offline, so we're just moved to item 3.1, which is the Ashburton Heritage Gap Study, and Robert Costello, Principal Strategic Planner, will present that report.
Thank you, Chair. Amendment C337 to the Burundara Planning Scheme seeks to apply the heritage overlay to 9 individual heritage places and 1 heritage precinct. The purpose of this report is to inform the Urban Planning Delegated Committee of the panel's recommendation for the amendment and to provide the officer's response to the panel's recommendation. A panel hearing for Amendment C337 was held on the 3rd of November 2021. 2 parties presented at the panel hearing. The panel was generally supportive of the amendment and recommended it be adopted subject to the post-exhibition change to the Statement of Significance for the individually significant heritage place at 1 Key Street, Ashburton. The change amends the Statement of Significance to identify alterations made to the property since 1953 are not significant. The change was endorsed by the UPDC on the 6th of September 2021 following public exhibition of the amendment and consideration of submissions. Given the minor change made to the amendment, officers recommend the committee refer Amendment C337 to an ordinary meeting of council for adoption. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and if we can just take that down, great. So one person has indicated they wish to make a submission on this matter. That's Mr. Greg Price. Is Mr. Price online as yet? It appears so. Mr. Price, can you hear me?
I can. I will attempt to start a video. So can you see and hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can. So I'll just remind you, you've done this before, but I'll just remind you that there's a strict limit of 3 minutes for presentations, and I'll let you know at the 2.5 minute mark if you're still speaking at that stage that you've got 30 seconds to wrap up. When you've presented, if you can just wait a moment so that I can check whether there are any questions from councillors.
Thanks.
So,
I believe Ms. Pavlidis has a presentation, slide deck. So here we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Good evening, Council. I'm Greg Price from Glen Iris. I'd like to talk about the northern end of the proposed precinct, and specifically 56 Albion. So this is at the intersection of Albion, Dunlop and Dent Street at the roundabout. Could we go to the next slide, please? So 56 Albion has a number of issues that greatly diminish its heritage value. If the overlay proceeds on the northern side of Dunlop Street, then I think that 56 should be downgraded to non-contributory. As you can see, the windows have been replaced with recent aluminium frames, and there's some sort of partial construction in the veranda, those 2 blue boxes. The metal fence is also, poor quality condition and atypical of the area. Can we go to the next slide, please? Not even the window frames and the trims match, as you can see from the front and side of the house. Can we go to the next slide, please? It also has a significant non-original extension that represents half of the house. The extension tries to blend in, but has a different roof line and styling and so forth. You can see that on the left there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Providing another perspective on the extension with, which has, again, different window frames and trim still. The extension is highly visible due to the siding and the geography of the land, and there's a rise as you go up Dunlop Street. Next slide, please. There are multiple types of fencing and gates, which are also atypical of the area. And off to the left, just peeking into view there, there's also a large metal double garage in the backyard. The type of garage is also unique to the area. Basically, and more generally, the house is not in great condition. It's like compared to others. Can we have the next slide, please? So the property is highly visible, particularly down half of Dent Street, so it sits right at the corner of the roundabout. It's also visible from Dunlop Street in the other direction. Next slide, please. Here's another perspective from the opposite corner, which is the intersection. It's a major thoroughfare, as it's got a bus route running through in one direction, and they're collector roads too, and there are a lot of people pass through. So it's a very visible, very property. I believe the property doesn't truly represent the heritage of the area, and even the heritage experts concede that it retains only a subset of the original features due to the corner lots. Can we go through the following slides, please? And we'll just flip through them. This is the other properties in the area, so just keep going, thanks. And this is representative of the quality of properties in the area. And so keep going, thanks. And so finally, and there's some unique ones there that the heritage consultant laughed at, but in wrapping up, I think it should be graded as non-contributory so it doesn't impede redevelopment, because the costs of actually getting to planning permit stage to deal with things at that is essentially prohibitive. And it doesn't represent the area. We've got 21% of Burundara as heritage protected, and I don't think it meets the threshold. While it might be justifiable, I think from a policy perspective, as what we want to represent and protect from a, I don't believe it reaches the thresholds. I have some thoughts on the end of the heritage.
I'm going to need to pull you up there.
Thanks.
That's 3.5 minutes. So I'll just take down that slide. I'll just see if there are any questions from councillors. I'm not seeing any. So thank you, Mr. Price.
Thank you.
And I'll return to Mr. Costello in case there's any matters arising.
Thank you, Chair. I've just briefly, this will be brief in the matters arising. The submitter has lodged a submission on this property, and this was considered by the independent panel, and the panel noticed at the end that the precinct comprises eclectic architectural styles and details typical of the interwar period. These differences are evident when comparing 52, 54 and 56 Albion Road and 2 and 6 Dunlop Street. Though plainer, 56 Albion Road is a comparable example of housing which was typical in Ashburton, and the panel concluded that 52, 54, 56, 58 and 60 Albion Road and 2, 4 and 6 Dunlop Street should be included in the home, farm estate and environs precinct. It is important to note that whilst it's not individually significant, it is contributory. So that allows for some level of alteration addition, and through the panel process and through consideration of submissions, it is being deemed that the property should be included as a contributory property. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. Any questions? Councillor Watson.
No question, Chair. At the appropriate time, I'm happy to move a motion.
All right. Are there any questions? If not, it looks like so Councillor Watson, I'll take your motion.
Officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Park.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? That's seconded by Councillor Stavro. We might just take that, just put that up on the screen very swiftly if we can. Thank you. Okay, so that's the motion before us. So thank you for that. I'll get you to take that down and then I'll take the vote. So those in, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We haven't, has been a long Christmas break. We haven't spoken. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Councillor Park. I don't know if there's any opposition to this motion. Perhaps that could be explored before I speak, or are you happy for me to speak to the motion?
My sense is there's none.
All right, I shall speak to the motion. Thank you. And thank you to Mr. Price for his presentation this evening. Councillors, we've been at this juncture many times before in many wards. This city has a a commitment to heritage, and we have invested a lot of time, personal time in talking with residents and exploring this, and also reading heritage reports. It's a long process. And it's a worthwhile process. This particular planning amendment began back in the 11th of November 2019. So these things are done carefully, they're not rushed, they're done so we bring the community along. So I'll leave my comments there and say that I commend the motion to my fellow councillors for their consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. We'll try again. So I'll put that now to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. And then we move to item 4, general business. Are there any items of general business? Item 5, urgent business. Are there any items of urgent business? Item 6, confidential business. Are there any items of confidential business? There being none, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.